Welcome in, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us as it's time to kick off Phase 2. Hope you had a nice little break, but it's time to get it started with the SCL. I'm Agro. I'll be on your host desk today, at least for the beginning part, and joining me right here is Anatoly as well. Toli, we had a little bit of a break. Craziness from MSI.
Oh, yeah.
Are you ready to get started with the mid-season patch and see its first competitive play?
Absolutely. The creativity is about to be flaring between these two teams as we start off in PS4 EU.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many different items and god changes and all this kind of crazy stuff. I can't wait to see how it all shakes out. And you can see that some of our offline games have already been resolved as MV3 start off not quite as hot as they wanted to up against VGS Gods. But as you mentioned, we're starting in PS4 Europe. Outcold Gaming up against Bedtime's Calling, and Outcold was a team that came and represented PS4 EU at the Midseason Invitational. Just Lion himself had a really good performance when it came to the All-Star event, but overall, I think Outcold still showed that they have a little bit of room to make up when it comes to competing against the best of the best.
Finishing off 11-1 in the first phase, Bedtime Calling have a little bit of a challenge going up against this team, whereas they ended up at 6-6, but that team that did show up at the LAN was playing without their jungler then, and they're going to be playing without their jungler now. It's going to be actually Pulsza instead of Kinder Warrior today.
Also a sub in that support role for Outcold Gaming, so maybe Bedtime's Calling can take advantage of those two substitutes. Let's see. Let's get ready for picks and bans for game number 1. Toli, MSI happens, mid-season patch right after the fact, tons of god changes as I mentioned, as well as an extra ban now in the pick and banning phase. We've got 10 bans total. I imagine that bans are going to look vastly different than what we saw at MSI.
It's going to be really spicy, especially with all the changes, even the addition of the new items, the ultimate activation items, to see which gods are going to start rising in popularity as a result. So it's very difficult to see or to understand where these teams are going to go right off the bat with all these changes.
I think the Isis ban is one that tells me that they've been paying attention to what has happened, because I think Isis probably the strongest of the gods that got changes during the mid-season patch. Getting that shield on her Dispel Magic now just seems absolutely insane. Both Pridewin and Staff of Mirrodin, two of those Arthurian items, work very well with her, so I'm not surprised by that ban at all, as well as Nike and Thor. So Scotty really the only god that got significant changes that got through, but it's going to be AMC first pick anyways, and this is a god that didn't get significant changes but did get a fairly substantial nerf during the midseason patch.
Yeah, and a little bit more difficult to clear the wave, so not going to have the most pushing power compared to the other hunters, but still going to be probably one of your highly contested hunters, I think, still in Phase 2, despite some of the nerfs.
The Dardez effect has reached us here in PS4 EU with a very early on her pick. Wouldn't be surprised if we went towards the mid lane, though. I'm seeing more and more on her, even in the duo lane. I think that people are just understanding that Desert's Fury being on a really low cooldown and hitting really hard is pretty substantial.
75-second cooldown, CC immunity. It hits like a truck. Don't forget that the changes to his shifting sands, the range increased from 65 to 70, so it's easier to land that impale combination. Much better in the early game as well.
So Bellona is the pick here for Outcold, and Batz. Batz has been a consistent staple of the European PlayStation 4 League, so no surprise that we see him early on here. Another god that I think continues to get better and better as people kind of get into the rhythm of playing with that Batz, as now it's up to Bedtime's Calling. I imagine something frontliney, and that's exactly where they'll go with that Amaterasu, which is a nice flex pick, can go support or solo.
Very true. It's difficult to pinpoint exactly the direction of this pick, which leads me to believe that Outcold Gaming is going to think about ganking the Yama wherever she goes, because you don't want to get her to a comfortable late game start to start snowballing. Once you have that aura online, the movement speed becomes a big factor. You have a soul chasing you down with that movement speed late game, you're going to be asking for trouble.
I like this Fafnir ban a lot by Outcold, paying attention to those double auto attackers with the Anhur and the Soul. But no Chronos there, where they could have picked that up. Instead they went with the Soul, and no Merlin in the first few phases. Bedtime's Calling kind of realized it and ban away those two very potent mages, but I'm a little surprised that we see the Soul instead of the Freya or the Chronos.
I think Disapparate is such a safe ability that it favors more than the Freya's ultimate, more than the Chronos' rewind or even the accelerate. So you got to respect these teams having that flexibility to prefer a different kind of style, and even like in the PC world, Zero is actually preferring Soul above the other two.
Sure, fair enough. Can be just be personal preference sometimes. Hell, the pick now for Outcold Gaming, really looking for that extra bit of healing alongside the rest of the squad. I mean, they don't have any other healing yet And neither side does. Actually, that's not true. Horus has a pretty substantial heal, actually, on the 3. But Hell Khepri is a really potent back, too. I mean, that's decent CC with the Khepri now, but really great peel for this Hell, and it's going to be hard to kill her through all of her own healing and the Scarab's Blessing.
And the damage mitigation between the Rising Dawn. I think that the safety factor from Outcold Gaming is really going to show as the game progresses. Bedtime Calling, though, trying to counter that with a lot of burst damage between the Anhur, the Soul, and the Pele, the mobility between Amaterasu and even the Horus ultimate to the skies. I think that if anyone's caught slipping from Outcold Gaming, they're going to get punished.
Plus, I mean, there's a lot of CC on Bedtime's Calling as well. I mean, you've got really great CC coming from the Horus, but Anhur, Amaterasu, even Pele has some decent amount for herself. We'll see if Bedtime's Calling can bring us the upset and take down the top dog in PS4 EU. Let's get Phase 2 started. Casters, take it away.
Game 1, Phase 2. Back at it again. And this is how we're going to be doing it. Tom Battinger on the 1s, Melissa Posada, that's Taco, you know her, on the 2s. And then, of course, Doug, well, he's on a little bit of everything. The observation guy bringing the best in the business. Outcold versus Bedtime's Calling. We saw some of these guys at the LAN, and I'm eager to see how they're going to return to the battlefield.
I'm interested to see how LAN is essentially going to impact Outcold Gaming and whether or not it's going to have a pretty heavy influence over their playstyle. So far, things remaining relatively the same as what we saw from the most previous MSI LAN. Support still starting over there in solo lane, probably just trying to match the pressure, recognizing that Dragon King also chose to start in solo.
Well, Just Lion gonna go ahead and get a nice little invade by himself, but that isn't a Muzen Cobb. That said, still able to wiggle his way away there, excuse me. Level 2 there for the AMC. Nice job, Just Lion. Making the moves.
A decent invade attempt there from Just Lion, but recognizes that he wasn't able to actually go for the purple. Still gets the default to his own, and the fact that Just Lion didn't have to split any additional XP, unlike Distortion, means that he'll likely be able to maintain about a half-level lead now over this Soul over there in Duo.
FataliTyxFire trying to deal with what BTC has brought over here. Meanwhile, Outcold Gaming grouping up around the mid lane. And I think that has to do with Cynortas' selection here. The Hell going to be a little bit more susceptible to the ganks, so you want to group up around there in the early stages.
Hell's also partially the reason, though, that I'm expecting this to probably be a little bit slower paced, at least for Outcold Gaming. They're not looking to try and rush anything right off the bat. They need a little bit of that ramp-up time to really turn Cynortas into a weapon and a healer utility.
And the same thing, you know, it's very interesting. This is a rough draft because Hell is not going to do anything early, and Arya Cruz has to hit level 5 as well. Usually what we see these teams do is you'll have one either high pressure in the jungle or the mid, and that balances out the low pressure character. So you can kind of have a little bit of both. Here, both relatively low, but I guess with the change to the clear, that has changed a lot of people's minds on the Hun Batz pick.
Well, the Hun Batz pick is, I think, always a viable option when you consider that Fear No Evil just has so many different, it's a bailout, it's an initiation, there's just a couple of different options that you can look towards, but what I'm mostly keeping an eye on is that pressure aspect. For Outcold Gaming, it's super important that FataliTyxFire is able to maintain the same sort of pressure that he's got right now. Just Lion even trying to create some dual lane pressure, but either way, the side lanes being so proactive takes a lot of the attention off of Cynortas there in mid.
It's a big point. You know, we had mentioned that Bedtime's Calling had the 2v1 there on the short side, and that's a result of the pressure that you were talking about. The Bellona going to be able to bludgeon out the Amaterasu for sure. So SMITE has to kind of deal with that, has help from Dragon King, and that's why we see the clump up of OCGs over here in the mid lane. So an interesting look for Outcold Gaming, who are getting exactly the game that they signed up for. They're up 800 gold, they're going that slow pace that you were talking about, Taco. Meanwhile, if I'm Raidunw and SARPEII, I'm looking at the opposite. I want to impale somebody at level 3, get the damage onto them, but that hasn't gone that direction.
Bedtime's Calling just hasn't really had much of an opportunity to look for maybe catching some of Outcold Gaming's respawn buff timers, but at the same time, I also feel like it's kind of Bedtime's Calling responsibility. If you're going to draft the Anhur for mid and the Pele for jungle, that screams instant pressure. So it's almost hurting them, essentially, to have not gotten aggressive yet.
There's one look, but it's from the other side. Raid's able to jump away, no problem. And I'm with you. It's obviously bedtime calling. Well, actually, they're down over 500 gold. It's actually worth talking about. It's almost 1,000. But even beyond that, you know, they haven't lost a Gold Fury. They haven't given up first blood. But they are the team that's supposed to be making the moves right now. So nothing lost, nothing gained doesn't apply here. Nothing lost. I mean, you're supposed to be gaining stuff right now.
And that's the problem that I'm mostly keeping an eye on is this. It's the hell.
Yeah.
Honestly, you're kind of playing against the clock in a sense whenever you're dealing with these healer compositions, and to just let Cynortas kind of freely farm away there in mid lane, it's a bit unfortunate for the rest of Bedtime's Calling, because outside of Raidunw and SARPEII, Distortion and they're kind of at the mercy of their own mid jungle for applying that pressure and ensuring that Cynortas doesn't get that same kind of stalemate advantage.
This is the reason why we actually play out the games, right? Because on paper, this is one of those situations where you're playing on Bedtime's Calling side, or you're looking up at the hell and you go, all right, listen, we're going to be ahead 1,000 gold, but that doesn't mean anything because late game the hell's going to come out. Well, what happens when that's backwards and the hell is up 1,000 gold? Now all of a sudden, as we jump back into game here, game number 1, that's a very different look. You've got to be worried about a whole lot of different things, because if you're BTC, your job is to just keep Cynortas at a distance. You'll have a light lead, and that lead allows you to go into the mid game, which is where you hit your stride with these selections. But if you enter that mid game behind Taco, that's exactly where OCG wants you to be.
And it's almost like a double whammy when you factor in that Pulsza is also on the Khepri. SARPEII, though, could be in some trouble of his own, actually going to expend the Pele ultimate just to get away.
And those are the type of engagements that Outcold want to be making. You and I had said earlier that they're not the ones setting the pace of the game. Outcold with the Hell and the Monkey, they're not going to be looking to make these giant plays. They want to chase out the ultimate so that most of the time you take advantage of that, then you make a play. It's less about that and more about, well, now they can't jump on us. This is a tread water moment for Outcold Gaming. The Monkey's level 6. Now you can see some proactive movement here from the blue team.
SARPEII without a blink as well started off with the purification beads early on, kind of a force pickup whenever you're against the bots there in the jungle. But you're right, without the Pele ultimate to essentially close the gap on a gank opportunity, Just Lion now has even more free reign to try and play a little bit more aggressively into Distortion if that's what he desires.
6 minutes in here, and Outcold Gaming have done nothing. But they're still up 1,500 gold, and that is impressive. Everything that Taco and I have said is kind of lined up Bedtime's Calling to be in the pole position, the first ones out of the gate. But it's been OCG against all odds and numbers that have absolutely done that.
And maybe I'm calling it too soon, but even at 6.5 minutes, there just seems to be this kind of swagger and confidence in the Outcold Gaming playing field where they've essentially just been doing whatever the hell it is that they want to, and Bedtime's Calling have been the ones responding sometimes a little bit too defensively. I think even with that instance at the Oracles, as opposed to SARPEII disengaging with that Pele ultimate, maybe look to instead jump right on in there, because sometimes pulling the trigger is what you need to do if you really want to catch your opponent off guard.
It's absolutely true. You know, a trip. Everybody talks about the ability to play with at a higher level of play when you come to LAN. I think the console guys playing against the big teams hold that thought as Just Lion trying to run away and does just that. Bedtime's Calling. Just watch that happen, Taco. I mean, it's your job to break it down, but there's nothing to break down.
Yeah, there's clearly vision on Outcold Gaming having members available as well, but from where Just Lion's positioning was at, coming straight out of Bedtime's Calling red buff, that just feels like too much respect is being given right now from BTC to Outcold Gaming.
That's where I was going. So watching the console league teams play against the minor league teams, the pro league teams, don't forget they had many other games that you didn't see, the scrims, the stuff that they were playing here behind the scenes. You know, I think that there's something to be said as Just Lion gets jumped on, misses the stinger, and the damage from the assassin, too much to handle. SARPEII does get Just Lion. It's about damn time. First blood for Bedtime's Calling. It might be past their curfew already. They're down 2,000, man.
Finds the kill on Just Lion in between his T1 and T2 tower, as opposed to when he was right there looking like a snack at red buff.
And so, you know,
hey, at least it happened.
Yeah, and the difference there, I said about time because it was about a minute late. But I think too much respect is key there. Bedtime's Calling correctly identified that Outcold Gaming have just become a better team after a week here at the big leagues.
I think SARPEII also might have just forgotten about the fact that Pele brings a ton of burst damage to the table early on. I mean, just Lion was folded underneath his T2 towers, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty tough. And the Muzen Cobb, obviously, no jump, no dash, no leap, no portal, right? Nothing for AMC to really do there. So a nice walk down. That's going to be very big for Bedtime's calling, I think, because I think a lot of teams are watching Outcold and saying, all right, you do have this practice, and we already got a chance to see they look better already. But that now, you know, reminded that they can bleed as well. So that's going to be an important kill for BTC. Obviously on the scoreboard, still have some ways to go. Outcold Gaming have had a fantastic early game. And as we break that 10-minute mark, Fire Giant spawns, we're going to transition into the mid-game, which theoretically should be where this Bedtime's calling team looks really good.
SARPEII trying to come in from underneath. Cynortas actually going to get
Cleanse.
grabbed up, but Pulsza's the one who's actually going to get the Khepri cleanse off just in the nick of time.
Oh!
Still not going to be enough to save Cynortas, however, SARPEII going to reinitiate.
Not a cooldown on the abduct, so that's not going to happen. Just lying here by himself, and this is a little bit scary, but the red buff already down, so Bedtime's calling not going to capitalize off of that. A nice play there from BTC. And it's interesting because, you know, the game doesn't always go as planned. That's what I was mentioning. You're expected to be ahead, Bedtime's calling is, in the early game, and you use that minor lead to bring it to a great mid-game. Dragon King deleted. First Fear No Evil of the match.
A little bit questionable positioning there from Dragon King, sometimes you just walk right into that one. And
yeah.
Pretty easy setup for Arya Cruz, a Horus without ult, or anybody to peel for him, essentially. So kind of rough stuff there for Bedtime's Calling to lose their support.
Got to agree there. But the big thing, as Outcold Gaming starts with the Gold Fury, is Bedtime's Calling identified coming in the mid-game. That's where they're going to be strong. I want to see them really attack this place right now. Gold Fury goes down, and it's all Outcold. And Bedtime Calling go to bed. They don't show up. FataliTyxFire gets stunned away. Nice job for the mid lane on her. Now the solo laner could be in trouble. Slowed, stunned, and all sorts of damage. Cinna is the last one to pop him. FataliTyxFire falls down. Kill number 3 for Bedtime's Calling. And although I didn't like the Gold Fury going the other way, Taco, this feels like Bedtime's Calling struck out of their first opportunity, which is the early game. You're supposed to have the lead. They didn't. But now their second opportunity is this mid-game. You've got Anhur, you've got these characters, and I like to see them be aggressive now.
All just Lion, realizing what that aggression can be.
Knock up.
Part of SARPEII, still looking for more, but not going to be enough damage this time around to actually bring down Just Lion. In fact, Just Lion looking to play aggressive.
Is that a mistake? Should Distortion have followed up, or would a Soul running up the lane have given up the positioning?
Distortion could have followed that up because Just Lion was going to box him either way. The second that he invested the Stinger leads me to believe that he is looking for a fight. So even with Distortion having taken the Cripple effect, I mean, Cripple effect doesn't really impact Soul when you've already gotten your Disapparate off.
Yeah, not at all. I think, you know, the downside to running up the lane is you give up your positioning of the jungler. Everybody knows you're getting ganked.
I really don't think Just Lion would have noticed at all. At all.
FataliTyxFire, another one. 7 Totem of Coups. Totem of Coup is really, it's the Totem of Coup is like French fries. 1 or 2 ain't good enough. You need a stack, and with 7 of them, that's certainly a good chunk of change. $700 gold there for the Outcold Gaming solo laner.
I kind of want to draw things back, though, to that last death from FataliTyxFire. One big thing that I've noticed already between these two teams is that there has been a reasonable level of punish for both sides whenever one or the other has chosen to over-aggress. FataliTyxFire goes a little bit too deep, looking for that solo pick onto Raidunw, and winds up getting swarmed by the rest of BTC. And it isn't necessarily, you know, foreshadowing that things are always going to go south for Outcold Gaming if FataliTyxFire chooses to be aggressive by himself, but it is definitely something to keep in the back of BTC's mind that Outcold Gaming solo laner is willing to invest that heavily by himself.
Well, there's the blink in from Dragon King, but looks like it's going to go the other direction. Ultimate comes out from the Anhur. Cynortas wiggles on away. That was a weird blink. He blinked into trouble. Bedtime Calling able to make use of it. No kills, though. Outcold Gaming do use the ultimate from Khepri, and that opens up the little guy, Fire Giant Jr., frenzied down, Pyromancer to Bedtime's Calling, trying to cut this lead down from over 2,000 to just underneath it.
Great zone there, though, by SARPEII. The rest of VTC, though, probably felt pretty comfortable with the idea that Outcold wouldn't choose to reinitiate. Raidunw, though, going to lose those purification beads in mid to Arya, and now... Well, actually, that doesn't really work too poorly against Raidunw. He'll have the Desert Fury coming back up, which will provide him with some CC immunity, and not only that, but there's nothing to fight for on the map. He doesn't have to leave tower.
I think that's... I said oof for Outcold. Fear No Evil... Popping Fear No Evil against an Anhur who's going to be able to immune it half the time, if not more. Beads and Desert Fury, that's always rough. Dropping a Fear No Evil just to chase out beads when they have the Desert Fury, that's rough. You're not Jotun's Wrath. Arya Cruz went into the beat stick instead of the direct cooldown reduction, which, sure, Amaterasu has some healing, sure. I don't hate the choice, but it's a long cooldown on an important team fight.
There's a lot of self-sustain, though, from Bedtime's Calling in. It's the Amaterasu, Pele, Horus, Soul. When you combine it all together, it can definitely amount to a much larger issue.
Oh yeah, by no means am I saying it's wrong itemization, but because of the itemization, blowing that cooldown hurts a lot. Like, I mean, with Gold Fury coming up in just a matter of seconds, 30 seconds, he'll have the Fear No Evil, so it's much ado about nothing, but certainly something to talk about. Just like this. Shout out to Doug pointing out one of the bigger new items, the Pride Win. 40 all prods, 20% CDR. Straight up, already love the stats. It's a chunk of change. But talk to us about the passive here.
And it is a mouthful, no pun intended, but the thing about this passive is that it's essentially the anti-ADC effect. And even for some of the more bursty junglers, this item can be a little bit problematic with that reflect damage. So you just have to be mindful when you're kind of juggling around the aggression throughout a team fight that your hunter isn't, or even your jungler isn't solely absorbing the full blow of the Pride Win.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It feels like the best example is to compare it to a Nike Ultimate. Basically, the Pride Win gives you a big shield. It slows everybody all around you once it explodes. And Dragon King looking to make an explosive start here in the middle lane. Cynortas saved by the support. Beautiful ultimate there from the Khepri. And SARPEII looking for the backline. Frenzy is popped here. The objective, players distortion with the double kill as he stomps on the pedal. And FataliTyxFire surrounded by 4. Bedtime's Calling, trying to help out. But Pulsza from the backline can only watch. 2 players dead. BTC on the top side. Primal Fury has spawned. Do they go for it?
Primal Fury is spawned. Bedtime's Calling wants it, but first they're going to have to force back just Lion and the rest of Outcold Gaming who still survive. FataliTyxFire, though, without or still has the Eagles rally in tow. This is a little bit risky here for BTC.
This is I like this call. Even though even though Fatality has the ultimate, I still want to see the aggression from Bedtime's Calling. They're down 1,500. This is where they take it back. Gold Fury has been leashed. Big knockup coming out from SARPEII. Damage out of Raidunw, and it's all about the jungler. 3 kills without a death so far. Pulsza on the run. A beautiful pillar as the port's getting walked down. The rest of the team turns to the objective. Cynortas has returned, and that's going to be the biggest threat. And because of Cynortas' return, Bedtime's Calling can't go for the Primal Fury.
A great job by FataliTyxFire and the surviving members of Outcold Game, because now it's actually Outcold who has the power play opportunity with Cynortas having just returned. He'll bring the team sustain, try and look towards that Primal Fury, but instead Pulsza is just going to opt to give up the idea of a Primal Fury for right now. Probably just not feeling comfortable enough with the 4v5 and knowing that Bedtime's Calling still had enough healthy members to try and just delay Outcold long enough.
That's the game plan. Anytime you're staring at a high healing composition with the Hell, or even some of the hyper carry compositions with the Kalis and Bakas, you're just sitting there trying to wait it out. The other side, for Bedtime's Calling, you're trying to end this as soon as possible.
I will say, though, I think that FataliTyxFire probably could have gotten away with contesting that Primal Fury without having sacrificing himself. The fact that he died there meant that Outcold couldn't instantly turn the situation around, but he invested the Eagles' rally, I think, maybe a little bit more panic-induced than what it needed to be. So probably just slightly more patience, but FataliTyxFire is definitely one who's known for his aggression on this team.
19 on the clock, or just barely. Bedtime's calling, trying to hide away in the cut. They're looking for people to show up at the Primal Fury and then jump them. That's not going to be the case. We got a couple of extra moments. We celebrated Pride Win. There have been 4 new items tossed into the game as far as the midseason patch is concerned. Pride Win is going to be the big shield Mamma Jamma. That's the one that you see on the Amaterasu. And the Honed Edge, this will later build into the Fail Not sword. You can see that in Just Lion's build on the left side. That green one, again, I'm going to give the floor to you, especially since this is a carry item, and that's your world.
It's beautiful whenever you get it in the double hunter compositions, but this is no double hunter composition. Still can definitely impact teammates either way. The possibility to land an additional critical strike by 15% for 10 seconds. You don't realize how long 10 seconds actually is until you're in the middle of a team fight. And these crits paying off pretty hugely here, but Just Lion might have taken down the Primal Fury too low. Bedtime's Calling gonna snag that one up.
Just Lion did all of the work for Bedtime's Calling, and now it's a tie game. BTC played that perfectly. The blinks in from the other side. Where's the vision? Where's the vision? Where's the vision? If I'm coaching,
why is a lone AMC pulling that?
Well, so yes and no. I mean, how many times? That's par for the course. Carry, solos to Gold Fury, right? Where's the vision is my problem. Outcold Gaming have no blue wards on the other side, and I brought up the fact as the duo jumps. Raidunw's gonna go down. It's played there. Outcold getting what they came for. They got their Gold Fury stolen, Taco. But it looks like they went right to Bedtime Calling's base and just beat him up anyway.
Had to be a little bit upset over that one. Just Lion definitely not happy to have his Primal Fury stolen away, but Outcold Gaming, they know souls in the opposite lane. They're going to go straight for the Fire Giant here.
They really are. The big boy here, 2050 on the clock, not enhanced just yet, but Outcold Gaming certainly have the damage to deal with it. Just Lion peels to look at a player. I don't know if I like this call. The fight is about the players. Cinna, half HP, so is SARPEII, so is the Fire Giant for what it's worth. Pick a target, friends. Outcold Gaming, 2 Scatterbrain, and now everything's low. The last time this happened, it got stolen, and this time it happens, it gets stolen. Bedtime Calling, taken away again. The Pele will survive for the moment, but Outcold lose the Gold Fury. They lose the Fire Giant. They lose the left side Phoenix. And Taco, I think it's all about objective secure and target prioritization.
From bad to worse right now for Outcold Gaming. It's big enough of a problem, I think, when Just Lion decides to pull the Primal Fury. I understand it to a certain degree, but Just Lion had ample opportunity to drop that Primal Fury before it was within that steel threshold there for Bedtime's Calling, and he doesn't let it go. And again, Outcold Gaming choose to juggle around all of this Fire Giant aggro, on top of the fact that they left it at 50% HP. Why risk that against the Pele and an Amaterasu?
Exactly.
It just felt so odd as far as the shot calling is concerned, and that to me leads me to assume that it's more so cluttered comms and miscommunication leading to indecision.
I gotta agree with that one. You know, like I said, I give my man Just Lion sort of the, I don't know if benefit of the doubt is the right terminology, but he's sitting in there Primal Fury, and what we saw, I mean, I mentioned it 20 minutes ago, it feels like, where all of Bedtime's Calling are hiding around this geometry by the Primal Fury, and nobody knows they're there. Now, if Outcold Gaming had dropped a ward, just one, they would have seen it, sure, and that's a different conversation. But Homie gets blinked on by 2 members and gets Gold Fury stolen. Yes, he could have dropped it. The Fire Giant is egregious.
No.
The Fire Giant's gotta change.
Even with the Gold Fury, though, you've got to think something's up in competitive play when the entire team is missing from the mini-map. That was Just Lion's first, hey, this is a red flag and something is wrong right now. And that red flag still never went off even underneath that Fire Giant. And now Bedtime's Calling with that left side Fire Minion waves forces Just Lion to have to go play defense and push out the waves for as far as possible, but Bedtime's Calling, they still have a power play opportunity here.
And again, even know your character. You're playing AMC. You don't have that burst at the end. Like, there's a lot that went wrong there. And now Outcold have to defend against Bedtime's Calling. BTC up an irrelevant amount of gold. This is a tie game as far as I'm concerned here, Taco. The difference mainly being the Fire Giant buff. That's going to give Bedtime's Calling the ability to back off a little bit, re-engage that sustain, but they only have it for about a minute.
But Bedtime's Calling, whenever they do initiate, it's got to be like one smooth wrecking ball. Perfect example would be what happened earlier underneath that T1 mid tower. Bedtime's Calling just have to move as one whole unit. They cannot afford to hesitate when they commit.
Is this a good choice for Outcold to defend on the tier 2?
It's fair to defend on the T2 here for Outcold. They have enough sustain and bailout opportunities that it shouldn't be that problematic.
SARPEII looking for the flank and pushes out Arya Cruz. That's going to be gigantic. Fear No Evil, a giant tool for Outcold Gaming, specifically on the defensive set. 3 players looking to push up here. Dragon King out with SARPEII. I understand the heal, but I need to see the initiation. There's the big boy ultimate coming out for the Jungle Monkey, separating Cinna and Distortion. Frenzy pot, but it's too late. Raidunw goes down. SARPEII on the exit on stage right, and the other players pushed up in the middle lane. Again, this is all hesitation leads to devastation if you allow me to lean on my cliches. And Bedtime's Calling just waited too damn long. They needed to jump in. Dragon King was all about healing up SARPEII with the dash. Nah, man, go in, initiate, get the stun. As soon as you see Arya Cruz pushed out of the back, that's when you jump in. Bedtime Calling missed it. And Outcold Gaming finally get their first objective of the game.
And you said it best, Tom. The time to initiate was when Arya Cruz had been poked down fairly low. BTC, they needed to start pouring into that T2 tower line, but just ended up sitting a little bit too far back. That gave just Lion a turnaround opportunity there onto SARPEII as well, since he was able to connect the Stinger, kind of force that Pele back with some of his own burst damage. So Outcold Gaming, for what it's worth, they might have blundered up the Primal Fury and the Fire Giant back to back, but they did one heck of a job holding on to their last standing tower structure, and not only that, but the revival of their left side Phoenix.
I mean, that's what's fun about SMITE at this level, level of maturity with the game. Teams have different strategies, right? If we were to give teams Madden ratings, Outcold Gaming's objective secure is an abysmal 25, but their team fight is pumping up in the 90s. I'm down to watch that team play. Bedtime Calling, on the other hand, initiation might be down there in the 30s, but there's stealability. So I'm liking this matchup. If it does come down to the team fights, though, I definitely have a little bit more faith in OCG, not just because of the prowess that they've shown us, Taco, but going back to the picks and bans. You got a hell of a Khepri, we're going late. I'm good.
Then again, Bedtime's Calling realistically only needs one good team fight to turn everything around. And with the way that these objective plays have panned out, I would have to favor BTC around the objective fight. And that could involve a team fight, sure, but after Outcold Gaming showing that they're willing to toggle fire and a fight, I mean...
Cinna's low, the jump on top, ultimate to secure, can't find it. Cinna's gonna be out of there, but now it's a 5-on-4. Dragon King has to dash away as well, still alive, but not a part of the team fight. If I'm coach, I'm calling everybody back. It's good enough, it's good enough, it's good enough. Do the objective. Do the objective. Again, Outcold Gaming getting a little ahead of themselves. This is the call to make.
Just Lion gonna be the first one to pull that Fire Giant, but wisely backs on out of it. Still with Cynortas here to play team healer. SARPEII looking to make another godlike steal happen one more time here. Bedtime's Calling, but instead gonna have to be the ult away. And now FataliTyxFire with the zone opportunity of a lifetime means Outcold Gaming can finally secure an objective.
Chef's kiss. That's what it's supposed to look like. Put your carry on the objective. Swap it out for a tanky guy, and then let one dude just zone the player that shows up. That is textbook objective secure. I'll bump it up from a 25 to a 35, boys. You got 2 of your objectives, and that one looked good. Now, this is all Outcold's job. This is going through the motions. They should win a team fight and win the game.
Well, that's how it should play out on paper, at least, but it's another thing entirely sometimes when you're actually the one underneath those Phoenix sieges. It might be a little bit rough here for Outcold Gaming because FataliTyxFire is pretty much the sole initiation for this team underneath those Firebirds, and Bedtime's Calling can definitely look to take advantage of that. But one big relic that has definitely come up massive for Outcold Gaming has definitely been that Thorns there for FataliTyxFire. Even went for the early upgrade and has his own Pride Win with Nemean. It is a nasty combination trying to deal with this Bellona if you're Distortion or Raiden.
On the other side, Bedtime's Calling hasn't really made use of their Frenzy too well. We saw the Frenzy took down the first Pyromancer of the game, which was really cute. They win half a team fight and go for the objective. That's the classic SPL strategy. Burn the Frenzy, burn the objective. But these rest of the team fights, I'm seeing it popped late when people are disengaging, not really loving what Sin has been able to do there out of that relic slot. And as we're talking about itemization, I want to bring up the fact that we've got a Pride Win on a Stance Switcher. So the way the Pride Win works is every time you ult, you get that big effect that we were talking about. Big shield, big slow, that pop that you just saw from Cynortas. So it does have a 45-second cooldown, and that's how that's going to work with the Stance Switchers. So Cynortas, you don't want to fight for 30 seconds, it feels like. You want to wait for this and then pop that to start the team fight, slow everybody down, and then allow Arya to do the thing.
A little bit awkward, but if you can micromanage it, it's all about the execution here for Cynortas. Can definitely be a really strong counter-initiation tool as well in case BTC look to just solely focus out that hell.
Well, if you guys have listened to me talk about healers on these broadcasts, you know that I hate the tank healer build. There's a world where those heals are powered by power, and you need to... So if you're going to buy one tank item, give me 20% CDR. Arya Cruz going in deep, Sin at half HP, the carry in trouble as well. Support 10 HP on top. FataliTyxFire zoning 2, SARPEII getting stomped on by Cynortas. First kill for the mid lane healer. Fatality zoning 3, the rest of the squad walking up. Those players are low, these players are high. The mid lane Phoenix is gonna die as well. Bedtime's Calling on their back foot, but Outcold, they can't push into the throne room just yet. The mid lane Phoenix and the shift to the left.
Beautiful space creation there from FataliTyxFire. It doesn't look like he's done with it just yet either. Left side Phoenix going to wind up falling rather quickly here. Kana could be in some trouble though with Pulsza's grab.
Nice jump there over the top. Arya Cruz gets it low. And again, the Frenzy after the fact. Outcold Gaming are going to walk out and just wait that Frenzy. Frenzy's gone. We can fight again. Bad call from BTC.
It almost seems like BTC are just using this Frenzy to try and force the disengage.
Which is a valuable skill, but after the fact, Cynortas pops a second one. Right side Bird alive, but the players defending it can't say the same thing about them. Arya getting low as they did last time around, and SARPEII will finish it. Pulsza here, and just Lion puts the support in the ground. It's 3 versus 4, half HP on the Titan. Raidunw's gonna go down as well, and the trade is good, 10-8, but the push outside. Outcold only have 2 players here, and Distortion is alive and well. Cynortas gets the kill, Distortion gets 1, Distortion dodges, weaves. If the Soul makes it back to the fountain, Fatality can't do this. If the Soul dies, Fatality absolutely can. The Soul in the fountain, FataliTyxFire in the ground. We're tied at 11. The Titan's not dead. We've got more for game number 1, and it's all because of the Distortion.
Too much greed. Trying to kill everybody, and it winds up costing Outcold Gaming what should have been a game end.
Realistically, the minions did so much work on the Titan that all Outcold have to do is knock on the door. But yeah.
But do you want to realistically take the chance?
No!
I mean, think about the power, the tower push potential from Raiden and Distortion. I also want to point out the primary reason why Outcold Gaming has been so successful here has been because of all the space creation that FataliTyxFire has been able to accomplish ever since that initial Fire Giant loss. It almost seems like a secondary gear kind of went off in his head that he's like, okay, I'm done messing around now. No one's touching these objectives or my backline. And that's exactly what he's been doing. That Phoenix Siege, perfect. I think even the initial toggling of the Titan was really well played by Outcold. It was just Lion, I think, kind of drawing the team off track, prioritizing farming player damage and kills over a simple game end.
Oh well. just another objective. You know, this was Outcold Gaming. They wanted to fumble every single objective on the map. Not just the Gold Fury and the Fire Giant, but also the Titan. So they fumbled the objective secure on the Titan once, and now, as we've seen the rest of the game, they're going to come back and give us that anime ending. And here's your anime hero right here. FataliTyxFire by himself, just walking, just pressing W at people.
It has been a miserable past 24-minute experience, I think, for Raidunw and Distortion.
Uh-oh, FataliTyxFire might have gotten himself in trouble. Big ultimate coming out from the Horus, and that's all she wrote. But on the right side, Outcold Gaming gonna sneak in. Everybody's looking here to the right. Keep an eye on Chulainn, who's walking up the middle lane. Everybody's looking at Arya Cruz. Chulainn's coming around. Arya Cruz, shoutouts to my old friend Allied. The Tom Clancy end for Outcold Gaming. Walking around the sidewalk. Gotta love to see it. 34 minutes of play. And game one, just like that, goes to Outcold.
Well, at least they realized after the fact that, hey, we can probably still end if we're somewhat grouped up.
Yeah, just walk it.
Good pick, though. It looked somewhat promising. I think Bedtime's Calling definitely had the right idea, trying to take the fights outside of the Titan room, but unfortunately, that Titan just took a little bit too much damage from that initial siege.
Let's take a look at the numbers here. FataliTyxFire and Arya Cruz doing a lot of the work. FataliTyxFire, I think, will wind up doing a lot of the work that you recognize if you see the game, not necessarily the post-game stats. Shout out to the player damage, but really just space created is not something you can boil down to a number, and that's really what we saw there out of the solo lane.
The player damage alone, I think, kind of spoke volumes about how game one went. Raidunw was making some pretty good plays, I think, at the start. Even Distortion going toe-to-toe there with Chulainn, but both of them just struggled so much so once FataliTyxFire started spamming them.
Fun stuff. Outcold Gaming take game number one. We'll see if they can take game number two. But first, this.
The SCL, brought to you by Titanforge, Hi-Res Studios, iKnahh, Respawn, SteelSeries, Alienware, Skillshot.
Welcome back, everybody. Game one goes the way of Outcold Gaming. An impressive victory, Tolly, but one that wasn't quite as clean as I would have expected.
Definitely not. At the beginning, Bedtime Calling was being very aggressive with all those mid-tower dives, not making it very easy for Cynortas' Hell, but the Fire Giant steal, even with the Fire Giant steal, it still wasn't enough. The late game European powerhouse Outcold, too strong.
Yeah, those Fire Giant dances did end up being pretty impactful, I think. Really gave Bedtime's Calling a great chance, and I think that they kind of dropped the ball when it came to the anti-heal, Tolly. I mean,
yes.
Barely any when it comes to a Hell. I mean, you need more than they had.
Absolutely agree with you there, Aggro. And on top of the Fire Giant steal, there was also the left side Phoenix Siege that Distortion 3039 got at the same time, being left uncontested. But the execution, that's how you can tell the difference between these two teams, is that even with that advantage that Bedtime's Calling had between the Fire Giant, between the left side Phoenix being exposed, their siege potential was not properly executed.
Yes, completely agree. And I love those two replays back-to-back. You can see the change in zoning and the way that they respect the opposition. They slow DPS a bit in the second clip, whereas in the first one, Kana's able to walk in and just kind of strip it away. We'll see what adjustments both teams make when it comes to picks and bans. We are ready for those going into game number two. And if you're not going to build anti-heal, maybe you just ban the Hell this time around? I mean, if you're so unwilling to go it.
It's hard to say because I think they had a great early advantage by shutting down the Hell, going 0-2. It was only level 12, whereas everyone else was like around 15 to 16 anyway. So I think the fact of the matter is that it wasn't really the anti-healing. They let it get to the point where anti-healing did matter, though, right? Like, because by not ending it at a proper timing, then the healing did make a big difference. And if it's not going to be the Hell, you might run into the likes of Aphrodite or Chang'e anyway.
Sure. Yeah, definitely a lot of healers that you could go in that slot regardless. As they do decide to ban the Hell away, they keep banning Just Lion's Uller as well. That's the pick that he played very well with the All-Star event, so no real surprise there. And Hun Batz taken off the table. Nike banned by Outcold. That means Thor is open. And this could be our chance to see one of those gods that got a pretty big change when it comes to midseason patch. And indeed we will. Tolly, how big of a change do you think this was for Thor? Do you think he's first pick worthy now?
I don't know if he's going to be first pick worthy, but he's going to be a little bit more appealing in the sense that he's just more fluid, right? Like, you're going to be able to squeeze in more basic attacks from your 3 not lasting as long. I think that the damage of the Chain Lightning being spread around after the Anvil of Dawn makes it obviously better in these larger skirmishes, but it's not going to change his early game too much. It's only going to impact those mid to late game team fights, which is a big deal.
Yeah, I think that the change to the 3 really only impacts his farming a whole lot early because it's up so often. And then the ult change, I agree with you, is much more late game focused. Just adding extra scaling to an ultimate, and it's pretty substantial scaling a lot of the time with that Chain Lightning, ends up being pretty impactful. We'll see if that comes to fruition here. For Bedtime's calling is Geb Chernobog, going with another global ultimate, Thor semi-global, Chernobog a true global ultimate that can really affect these fights all over the map. Whereas Outcold, just trying to stay in their lane and fight, it seems like Anhur, Bellona, Najah, all 3 gods that are good at fighting in the early game.
And it's not just about using the globals for engagement purposes. You can use it to disengage, you can use it to split push. The same way Distortion got the left side Phoenix with the Soul last game, it's a lot easier now to do that same tactic with the Chernobog's Living Nightmare.
Sure is. Now you've got Raidunw and Ra banned away by Outcold. 2 gods that you don't see a whole lot of in mid lane right now, but it's a lot of hunters in mid lane right now.
Yeah.
So I don't know where else they're really supposed to ban. And Bedtime calling already took care of the Poseidon. Zhong is seeing a little bit of play these days. Maybe you could have banned that away. Has a pretty decent matchup against the Najah. But Outcold's got that angle covered because they pick it themselves.
The team fights galore. I don't think we're going to necessarily see Zhong in that long lane, despite having the Anhur middle in the last game. I think that it's just a lot safer to stick the Zhong mid.
For sure, and Just Lion has proven that he's very comfortable on a wide range of hunters. Give him the Anhur, I imagine. But we could see Chronos make it all the way to 9th. And that's what we've got here. It just crazy that he falls that far. Is it just the rings? Because he didn't get any kit changes.
That's true. It's just the rings, honestly. And if anything, I think that if you're going haste and ring, which you don't necessarily have to on the Chronos, it helps because there's extra power despite it being more expensive. But Chronos is still good to do Chronos things by getting the towers at the end of the day. So I love this pick.
Yeah, I think it's really solid. I mean, the Cabrakan pick on the other side for Outcold does answer it pretty well. But I love Bedtime's calling draft here, Totally. Tons of CC, tons of damage. I imagine that's going to be Chernobog in the mid lane. Do you think they take it here in game 2?
I think that it's going to be Outcold game, and they're just too strong.
Oh, the favorites might come away with a 2-0 here. Let's throw it over to the casters to find out what happens in game 2.
Los favoritos. There it is. The favorites here. We'll see if Outcold is absolutely the favorite. I'll tell you right now, I went from Atlanta to New York, and it was from one heat wave to the other. I wouldn't mind being Outcold gaming right now. It's way too hot here, so I'll stand on the favorites with you there. Bedtime's calling, though. On the other hand, did a great job stealing some objectives away. Just Lion's doing a good job of getting himself kind of surprised and using an early beads. We don't love that. So if I'm Bedtime's calling, that's what I'm focused on. I am looking for the objectives this time around. My composition doesn't exactly scream that, but I'm definitely interested in what's going on there.
Well, first things first, to get to the objectives, you've got to survive the laning phase. And Bedtime's calling definitely doesn't have a ton of early game pressure going for themselves. But they have some really solid mid to late game potential. So if they can just kind of survive the laning phase, then Outcold Gaming could definitely be in some trouble.
Thor, some big changes on the old guy. Some one of the more classic characters, and he's been how you say, charged up. He's got some electrification going on. Basically a very similar character. Also same The spin is a little bit different, but the same mentality. Wall's still there, hammer throw's still there. All of it's just electricity. I think he kind of fits the same role that he always has. Not very different. That's the big difference right there. Is the 3 is much shorter, and so that's going to be a big deal with the spin. But altogether, I think still a late end of the early game character, a mid-game monster for sure. Ranged poke, which is a big deal. So we'll see how this mid lane, works out between SARPEII and Raid, who goes from the Anhur to the Chronos, sticking with the basic attack class. And here's Just Lion versus Distortion. Impale already on cooldown. Some good damage out of both of these carries. Just Lion forced to turn around as the wave shows up.
Just Lion also not wanting to take that third auto attack from Distortion to proc the Chernobog passive. A little bit of boosted damage there, but Dragon King gonna knock Just Lion all the way back to his tower line, making sure that his Hunter can safely clear the rest of the wave. And comes as no real surprise that dual lane is where sparks are flying first. It's kind of just the environment that Just Lion tends to create over there.
FataliTyxFire on the solo lane, playing the Bellona one more time. It looked fantastic. My unofficial MVP of the game for sure. So I have no problem with the reprise. Kana on the Khepri, something that we don't see all that often as of late. What do you think about the Angry Boy?
Kind of awkward seeing a Khepri these days.
Yeah.
I know that he's definitely fallen off a little bit in a sense, as a lot of solo laners not really tending to favor him for winning that solo lane matchup outright, especially against the likes of a Bellona, but he does have some really interesting setup and utility tools that I think is what Bedtime's Calling really wanted to prioritize here. The knockup is going to be very crucial, I think, in terms of just burning relics early on so that SARPEII and Dragon King have a little bit more room to work with.
Like that. Don't love it, though. SARPEII put some good damage on the board. Chronos should look to go north, but instead comes down directly here on the right side. Also going to show up with a slow, and here's FataliTyxFire. This is still a good spot for BTC, but with Arya Cruz making the rotation, things can go awry, and they will. Outcold have the numbers, and they push everybody out, and there's a nice grab. Beads are strong. Ring bounce will slow down and cause some damage, but Outcold too far away. I gotta call that a missed opportunity for Bedtime's Calling. I don't know.
A good beads toggle. I don't know. FataliTyxFire kind of rotated in the nick of time for Pulsza, and originally, while it looked a little bit promising there for Bedtime's Calling, I don't think that they have the damage just yet between that Thor and Chronos alone. And again, I mean, Dragon King's trying to participate best he can.
Just with the auto attacks. I mean, yeah, if you really want to, if I see that wall on the other side of the players, the initial wall, we maybe see it, but a tall task for sure. Probably my favorite play that a Hunter can do.
Just Lion just really likes to play aggressive. That's really all it comes down to. He doesn't even force out the Into Darkness first, which is usually what you want to do before looking for the full Desert Fury. Otherwise, Chernobog will just immune every single frame of it.
Especially, you know, Chernobog is vulnerable in the middle of the lane unless you create a wall for him.
With your pillar?
With your own geometry. Yeah. That's not just that's not going to go on his highlight reel. Put it that way.
Hey, if it had been a solo kill though, we might be saying something entirely different.
Oh, we absolutely would.
Distortion is certainly pretty keen, I think, on Just Lion's aggressive instances. Speaking of aggression, so SARPEII.
Gonna land down. There's the combo. Ton of lightning, ton of damage. FataliTyxFire able to jump away for now. No problemo, he says. Stunned under the tower. This could be a different story. FataliTyxFire trying to deal with the damage and can't. Kana with the transformation and SARPEII with the initiation. That's first blood for Bedtime's Calling.
And Distortion one more time, just gonna into darkness, into safety, away from Pulsza's gank opportunity. And that's gonna hurt Outcold just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Bedtime's Calling creeping up with the first real lead of this match off of that first blood.
Minor exchange there on the left side. But that first blood, very important, I think, for Bedtime's Calling this time around, especially with the way game number 1 went.
think it's the warm-up, though, for SARPEII. That's what I'm mostly looking towards in those initial Thor ganks. Is, do you connect the entire kit? Are you landing your ultimate? Are you properly syncing up the hammer toss with your wall and the spin to win? If the answer is yes to all three of those questions, well, then you're probably going to be dealing a ton of damage, and that's exactly why FataliTyxFire, even after having expended the Eagles' rally, wasn't in a position to try and peel himself out underneath his own T1 tower.
It was also Bedtime's calling. They really committed there. And FataliTyxFire might have been able to survive if he just held the stick north, but did actually kind of slow down and back off a little bit. And I'm not holding against him because I was fooled as well. I thought Bedtime's calling was just going to call it there, but they dive the tower and they juggle the tower aggro really nicely. They give it to Kana instead of SARPEII. They play that very well, and that's why FataliTyxFire goes down. But that's absolutely, that's an old school SMITE watching thing. When every time you watch a Thor player, first time they dunk down, you're like, see what you got, buddy. Can you do it? Because it's a very standard, we know it's supposed to happen. It is a fighting game combo. You push these buttons in this order, and if you don't, we're all gonna judge you. Luckily for SARPEII, they nailed it.
Every single one of us, too. Trust me. We all know what Mixer Chat can be like. All right, let's not pretend here for a second.
No, everyone is nice to me in Mixer Chat. That's what everybody tells me, is that everybody likes me in Mixer Chat, and nobody dislikes me whatsoever. They're all very nice to me.
Just lying, dislikes SARPEII. He's not going to let him participate in the Oracle farm. Instead, that's going to be Outcold Gaming getting the free vision on that first Gold Fury, which neither side has attempted yet. And climbing up, nearing that 10-minute mark, this is usually where we start to see that window of opportunity arrive.
I like the idea from both teams staying away. We'll come back to that in a moment. Support takes Raidunw up to the sky, doesn't do a whole bunch. SARPEII with a great wall, and it's Pulsza that gets sent back. 2 kills in total, 1 in that team fight. I don't love Bedtime calling walking up here. SARPEII and Dragon King are too low to really go anywhere past this purple buff, so they do just that.
Just Lying, though, hasn't recognized the fact that SARPEII is still lingering in the jungle. And Distortion might be able to force out a 1v1 opportunity.
Oh!
Just in the nick of time, but can't avoid the wall, and the beats having already been forced because of Distortion means absolute disaster there for Just Lying and Duo.
The hot hand there from SARPEII, though, that's... I don't want to call that an ult miss, because Just Lying, fantastic jump. And then just the follow-up. That people say, what's the difference between Thor and Ratatasker? That ranged poke. That ability to do that right there. Rat can dash on you and you'll still get away. The stun from the Thor from a distance is absolutely what happened there. Gotta love it. Gotta love it, gotta love it.
Only escape option for Just Lying might have been if he'd had the Desert Fury available just then to get the CC immunity for the Thor Rift Stun, but... Even still, yeah, the double tap damage alone, followed up by the Berserker's Barrage. I mean, there's really only so much Just Lying can do there, aside from die.
Bedtime's Calling has 0 wards on that dual lane side of the map, and that's the beauty of Thor. One of the nice things about playing against Thor is that you can ward kind of double duty. You can ward that Gold Fury, and that's also going to catch the Thor ultimates coming to your lane. And so, take advantage of it. Do it. Drop a ward, man. Just Lying just wants to shoot Distortion all day. That's a good play. Jump on top. Last hit. Last hit. He is able to find it. SARPEII comes and punishes Just Lying down. Nice adaptation, though.
Distortion did what he could to try and turn it around, but Kana right now also on the run for his life.
Nice
a nice
knock-up.
A beautiful Cataclysm, and Kana's going to make it out of there.
Fantastic play by Dragon King. Knock up into the ultimate, into some of the shield. Kana's still alive, and now it's all going to go Arya's way. 1 kill for the Cabrakan. Raidunw on the run. Cabrakan to ultimate. Thor is in the air, lands down too short. Distortion joins as well. Arya in the ground. The carry comes out of the fountain and sends Arya right back to it. Not enough damage from blue team, but it's good enough here. Cynortas goes deep for no reason whatsoever. That was over, said and done with. And Cynortas said, would you like to kill me too? 1 death for the mid lane mage. And Bedtime's Calling lead it 7-4. about 2,000 gold up.
Cynortas looking like a buffet, honestly, just letting everybody walk right up to him.
Yeah,
for
that
free.
was...
I mean, it really does surprise me that he chose to push up to the tower line, maybe expecting that the sustain would be enough to keep him alive in front of all three members of Bedtime's Calling, but he pretty much just served himself up.
That's the thing. Bancroft plus Exorcism is a whole bunch of HP back, but there's a delay. It's like, what is it, 0.8 seconds? Maybe it's a full second between when you go, wah, and the demon comes inside of you and you get healed up and everything's all awesome.
The heal, it just really wasn't anything that spectacular.
Yeah.
Not to stand in front of a Chronos, Thor, and Chernobog.
Oh, hey.
All their cooldowns coming back up again.
I'm here to say why the guy put 27 for 2+7. I'm not here to defend it. That's all I'm doing.
You ever just like say something out loud back to yourself? Ooh, Distortion could be in a tough spot here. Just lying, looking for the full wombo combo, but Desert Fury too impatient.
Come on! We've seen that twice. SARPEII's gonna land on him right here.
Maybe not with backup.
No, SARPEII's gonna land on him right here and take care of that. The support on the backside is gonna deal with Raidunw. But here comes the rewind. Distortion up on top. Pulsza here as well. Arya gonna miss the stun. And honestly, it's gonna wear off, so no chance for the reinitiation. FataliTyxFire has shown up. MVP of game number 1, if you ask me. Right here, not exactly the MVP performance. The up-down's good. Everybody's low. I don't love that play. Distortion does. And so does the rest of Bedtime's Calling, because that's lucky number 9, and it's gonna open up the world of the Gold Fury.
Cynortas doesn't even have that Zhong ultimate available, and even if he did, Kana's gonna make sure to push him out anyway. Can't even get close. It's all up to Pulsza to try and squeeze through that gap, but Arya Cruz on the backside just too little too late.
Oh man, tried to hit the ultimate through the wall and couldn't. The geometry busted him up. Haha, guys, finally get the hit. Thank you. That was... We've all seen that. We've all been playing Chang'e and had 5 people line up in a row, you know, and you want it. All 3 of those players coulda, shoulda, woulda died if Arya takes one extra step to the right instead of not being allowed to deploy the ultimate. Gets a team wipe, a Gold Fury.
I think it's because he heard the objective go down,
yes.
So he just went for the first kill that he thought he could actually piece together there to give Outcold Gaming some form of a return after losing that initial Gold Fury. But despite all the picks that have gone in favor of Bedtime's Calling and the Gold Fury, including the First Blood as well, this really isn't that substantial of a lead. It's not something that Outcold Gaming can't possibly recover from.
Oh, absolutely.
BTC has definitely cleaned up their team fight.
Without a doubt. This is, you know, if I'm Outcold Gaming, I'm absolutely aware of what's going on, and, you know, I don't want to continue this route, but I'm not pulling the car over and turning it around. We're absolutely still here. Cynortas, however, might not be after this one. Dunked down, but the protections are good. Here comes Raidunw. And SARPEII is going to be out of this one. Activated the Sanctuary. Aegis, that's a throwback. Just Lion had none, and Distortion takes the 1v1. 11 kills in total for his team. 6 kills for the carry. I did not realize that.
I'm not even looking at the kills. I'm looking at where that death took place for Just Lion. Hold that thought, though. Distortion could be in some trouble of his own. Actually looking to just box it out here with Pulsza instead. Still has that Living Nightmare as well, but the rotation from SARPEII could just be good enough. No, instead the wall's going to be off the mark. Arya Cruz on the backside. This could be trouble now for Bedtime's Calling.
There's a dash in. Great control from Arya. Is it enough to take care of Distortion? The answer is no. And that be that. A weird, disjointed team fight there. Cynortas, no ultimate available this time. Nice heal. Just kidding. That's a dozen for Bedtime.
Raidunw, though, has no idea that FataliTyxFire is right behind him until it's already too late. This Chronos could be in some serious trouble now, falling incredibly low. Just Lion gonna scoop up the last hit there. Meanwhile, Arya Cruz takes out SARPEII in duo, and Dragon King looking to be next.
Oh yeah, this one, Arya's just waiting for the stun to come up, and then it's toast. How do you love that ultimate? Because, I mean, Dragon King is not going to get the kill there, but maybe can get time for Distortion to show up. Is the Geb ultimate on cooldown going to matter?
The Geb ultimate on cooldown is definitely going to matter, especially when Distortion just gets two-pieced by just Lions. Rotation back in. And that just went from bad to worse to downright hideous for Bedtime's Calling. And it was just a segment of kills, segment of overstaying, really.
I mean, that's what, you know, it's fair to say Outcold Gaming, the more, I don't know, what's the adjective you want to use? Accomplished, experienced, right? They came to land, they were on top of the crop before. They're the top card. I think this is what separates them, is the ability just like, yeah, we're down 2,000, 2,500. They're going to make a mistake. Just wait. Just wait. Just wait. Hey, there's the mistake. Kill them for it.
Well, it wasn't even just one. It was several over the course of the entire mid
5 minutes
dual lane side of the map. It's just kind of confusing because Bedtime's Calling, they're in control. They have clear pacing of this match under their favor.
Oh, yeah.
And they just hand it back to Outcold Gaming. They're like, hey guys, you forgot this. It's the game lead.
I mean, what was Bedtime's Calling trying to do in those situations? I mean, just fight for the sake of fighting?
Trying to pressure T1s is the only reasonable excuse I can think of here, but it's still not all doom and gloom just yet for Bedtime's Calling. They're not behind, so to say, just yet. They just gave Outcold a chance.
Arya Crew's going to get jumped on, though, and it's a nice look for PTC. FataliTyxFire tries to stop them by jumping over the front line. Won't be able to find it. And these are, I mean, both teams are suffering for this, but I mean, really the issue here, Taco, is like you said, they're pressuring tier 1s. Something we used to say in 2004 when we used to game, fight on the flag. Look for the objectives. It is always, I don't care what game you're playing, about the OBJs. You want to find these Primal Furies, these Gold Furies, these Fire Giants. FataliTyxFire is here. The rest of the team is absent. Cynortas is in the mid lane. This is a fight for no reason. But you see the solo lane understand that they have to be here because of the objective. Outcold need to group a little bit better than that.
Just Lion getting absolutely obliterated by SARPEII, expends his entire kit trying to chase down a Thor by himself, only to get turn and burned when SARPEII's ult is available again. Raidunw as well gonna wind up bringing down Cynortas, and Bedtime's Calling, they're looking like they have all the time in the world. That is until Arya Cruz tries to interfere.
Nice job. He's gonna pull the team off the Primal Fury. That's the attention to the objectives that we wanted to see. Raidunw on the downside is trying to get out as his teammate pushes the enemy out up top. So it's a 3-for-1. Outcold on the bad side of things, but they are taking enough time that Bedtime's Calling will not be able to easily do the Gold Fury. Once again, not in love with FataliTyxFire's up-down.
He's wasting time. That is all he's trying to accomplish here, is a waste of time so that Bedtime's Calling doesn't feel comfortable looking for this Primal Fury any longer. And sure enough, just Lion even expending the leap just to get back here a little bit sooner. But a decent consolation prize for Distortion, getting the Oracles, providing the free vision to ensure that Outcold Gaming can't look for their own surprise Fury opportunity.
In game number 1, FataliTyxFire was the player that we were both looking at. Just fantastic job of paying attention to what the team needs to pay attention to and zoning players away when they absolutely needed to. The problem there, going from the push in the tier 1 tower in mid to whatever, if you want to call that a team fight over there, nobody was looking at the objective. FataliTyxFire is doing his job 100% of the time, or 100% there. Again, it was disjointed, it was ugly, it was dirty, it was sloppy, but FataliTyxFire kind of understood what was going on, and that's all you need.
It was inexperience
from
Bedtime's Calling. That's really all I can chalk this up to time and time again. But SARPEII looking to close things out right now as Arya Cruz is Cabrakan going to be toast in no time unless Raidunw can hit the stop time.
Yep, that's still going to be it. A little bit rough. Arya, old Cabrakan maybe gets out of there because he's able to wall players off at smaller radius. I don't know.
Maybe.
I think he gets chased down by one player, but regardless.
It was a good punish.
Yeah.
Arya no real reason to be there by yourself, trying to collect a little bit of additional farm, but he's going to wind up falling now a little bit further behind instead, and just Lion still looking at test distortion on this Primal Fury.
Oh, really? Oh, really? Oh, really? Bedtime's calling, still gets it. Just Lion, the second time this series.
He could have had it if he waited for Pulsza to interfere.
Yep.
He's just...
A little bit impatient
Just Lion is very impatient as a player as a whole, and I hope that when his team is watching back these first couple of matches that have taken place, they should definitely be trying to get their boy to be just a little bit more reserved, man. A little bit of that player discipline can go such a long way.
Yeah, and by no means am I you know, saying equal level of skill here, but you think of aggressive, impatient players, you always go back to Zap, man. He's the guy that we've always looked at, right? And he unequivocally got better once he reeled himself in. You still want to lean on that aggressive nature. We're not saying Just Lion has to change. Jump in on that dude. Fight distortion every time you want. But you can go 90 and not 100. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and especially when you're already... Well, he's definitely fixed his scoreline a decent bit. I think he has made some really solid rotations to back up his team when need be, but there's also been a lot of instances where Just Lion, for example, was 1-4, gets soloed by distortion.
Here it is again. He's down 2 levels, jumps in, looks for the impale, can't find it. That's what I'm talking about. That type of aggression, I'm okay with that. If he runs down the lane, I'm less okay with
It's
that.
It's different when Distortion is at his tower line.
Exactly.
It's a completely different story when Just Lion is the one who's 2 levels behind and still running down the enemy ADC's tower line, which is how Distortion got that first solo kill to begin with.
Yeah, if you're a fastball pitcher, I'm not telling you to change things going on. Keep doing your throwing that ball 100 miles an hour, but you know, you gotta figure out when to ease off and kind of taper it down.
A curveball every now and then doesn't hurt.
Yep. Even if it's a bad curveball.
Sometimes you just need to switch up.
That's really the key, and I think that's what, you know, people at home need to internalize, is that you have your play style, and that's all fair game, and play style's a dirty word, but that's a different conversation. You play the way you play, aggressive, passive, whatever. But even if you switch up and it's not as good, the switch up alone is the mix-up.
Cynortas in some trouble here, but it's going to be turned and burned instead onto DragonKing as he gets locked in from SARPEII's own wall.
Oh, bad wall!
Pillar impale to save him, but on the back line we got Kana mixing things up for Bedtime's calling.
It was a great wall for Outcold Gaming, but that's the wrong team. DragonKing on the backside, here comes the jump up, and Outcold Gaming will be pushed out despite the fact that SARPEII was a little bit of a prevalent there. That time, a good wall for Bedtime's calling. Gonna force out the ultimate from both sides. SARPEII gets 1, 3 players down for Outcold Gaming as Distortion picks up 2. And there's gonna be another one. Just Lion goes down, rolling trips is Distortion. The carry should be on the tower. But if you're gonna kill 3 folks, I'm down. Chronos, do the tower damage.
Oh no, this could be trouble for Outcold. Pulsza still doesn't have that Windfire wheels either. T2 tower is just gonna be melted here.
Easy.
Chronos and a Chernobog are not the 2 hunters that you want to see pushing down your mid lane with 4 of your teammates still dead for another 15 seconds or so. And Outcold Gaming, they're just gonna have to let this Firebird fall.
Yes or no? Yes or no?
No. DragonKing was saying no with his HP bar alone.
Yep. If there was, oh man, 7 more seconds on those respawn timers, I think I'd go for it.
2 towers left though.
Yeah.
2 towers. That's a lot of additional health to the Titan
I think 10 seconds, I definitely go for it, because we have 6 towers up. Worst case scenario, we wipe and you get a tier 2.
A fire giant. And then catch up.
All right. 10K lead. Sure.
They're not really, Bedtime's calling weren't in a position that they're forced to make that decision. I think that's the main takeaway from that mid-Phoenix siege is, sure, you probably could have gone for it, done some decent Titan damage. I have no doubt in my mind they might have brought it down to 40% before wiping.
But no way they can,
giving Outcold the opportunity, or a possible opportunity to take fire, it's just not worth the risk, especially when you can just obliterate FataliTyxFire in the process and get that FG for free all the same.
not the greatest look. Just lying on the wrong side of the map as well.
Now he knows exactly where he needs to be, because contesting against Bedtime's Calling after losing their star player, I think, for the initiations.
They should. I think Outcold probably should have been grouped up. Again, FataliTyxFire dies because he's 1 versus 5. There's something to be said about being in the wrong spot, even though it's the right spot. FataliTyxFire is where the whole team needs to be.
Well, the whole team's wrong place, wrong time.
Exactly. If FataliTyxFire has a squad there, that's a team fight, and that's what you're looking for. That said, FataliTyxFire, if you're dead but screaming, "I was in the right spot," you know, open your eyes. Outcold Gaming trying to defend on the right side, not gonna happen.
Didn't even stand a chance. Honestly, that was disgusting from Raidunw with the Chronos. And right now, Bedtime's Calling are putting up a pretty good fight here. It's looking like a game 3 on our hands.
Yeah, I mean, this is fast Chronos is. It always makes me laugh. Yeah, I think Chronos definitely. The sieges are easy.
You know what's funnier? It's the fact that Bedtime's Calling, they wanted to surrender this. Let's not forget about Bedtime's Calling 4-man suiciding across the map in mid and duo, and then being like, man, maybe I don't want to play SMITE game anymore after that one, guys. And,
yeah, I've felt that one.
Well, it hurts, but I think that this is also a great example of team perseverance and team mentality staying in the right place.
Probably. Yeah, I think that's a great way to paint it there, because Bedtime's, especially after game number 1, Outcold kind of took everything you had away from you and then embarrassed you a little bit. And then game number 2, like you said, you just get stepped on. This is absolutely, I think a lot of lesser teams probably spiral out, kind of lose it a little bit. Instead, BTC sticking to the grindstone. What up, structures?
They just started playing their composition to a T.
That's
Dragon
the key.
King, I have loved this switch up, by the way, for Dragon King, off of the Horus onto the Geb. Him playing Babysitter is what the team needed, and that Cataclysm initiation is going to open up some great room here for SARPEII to follow it up.
Yeah, Raidunw's going to go down. He has the Aegis, and he will, but Distortion gets one as well. It's a 1-for-1 so far. Cynortas up and down, and there's Distortion with the 1-2 punch. Just Lion gonna jump away and nobody can catch up. Just kidding. SARPEII from a distance cuts him down with a hammer. South side is Arya, top side is Pulsza. The only 2 members alive. Arya no longer. And one more time, the lone support here to play D. But the Titan already at 75%, 27-12, and just under a half hour of play, we're going to a game number 3.
Poor Pulsza, man. 2 times he had to watch as Bedtime's Calling just siege pretty relentlessly. Really not a whole lot that a Najah could do in that position, especially when 4 of your teammates are still on that respawn timer for another 40 seconds or so.
A little bit rough there for the guys on Outcold Gaming looking up, because this was all the other side. I love to see it. Let's take a look at the numbers and see how this one lines up. You see the damage coming out here from the entire squad, and I think that's what you want to see when you're playing with Bedtime's Calling. Everybody around the same amount of damage, sans the supports, obviously. Love to see it.
Distortion just had so much room to work in between Kana and Dragon King being the frontline members and the backline peel that he needed whenever Just Lion or some other members from Outcold were looking to play aggressive on that Chernobog. It was just a really well-handled toggling between the Chronos and the Chernobog as far as pressure was concerned.
Well, we've got what we came for. Best of 3, and we're going to milk all 3. 1 and 2 in the books. We'll be right back after this break.
The SMITE Console League brought to you by Titan Forge, Hi-Res Studios, iKnahh, Respawn, Steel Series, Alienware, and Skillshop.
Welcome back, everybody. An impressive Game 2 performance there from Bedtime's Calling extends this to a Game 3. And totally coming in, I think that this was Just Lion's phase to really stand out after a breakout performance at the Splice Invitational. But he really got outplayed in the duo lane by Distortion that game.
Yeah, absolutely. Distortion on the Muzen going 14-2. Top of the player damage charts at 27,000. I think a lot of it came down to the corrections that Bedtime's Calling made this game by banning away the Hell, banning away the Hunbats, these late game team fighting monsters. Allow them more freedom to just be really loose, especially with SARPEII's Thor using that global pressure.
Absolutely. We'll see what adjustments now Outcold will make in Game 3's picks and bans as we're ready for those. Now they are in the first pick slot, so that means if Thor were to theoretically be left open this time, maybe we see them pick it up this time around. Then Bedtime's Calling, can you afford to just ban Hell Uller like you have, like you did in Game 2, which led to your victory? They start off trying to do it. Maybe that extra ban in the first banning phase might help them out.
It depends, though, because at one point in Game 2, they had the Geb, right? So that's where their late game defensive measures was, whereas in Game number 1, Outcold Gaming had the Khepri. So if you're going to give up the Hell and the Khepri, you better have something to fight that with in terms of the Geb, or maybe something more offensive-minded, maybe like a Kumakarna to force engagements.
Sure, certainly on the table. Finally, Chronos gets some respect. He's been either banned in the second phase or 9th picked so far in this set, and an early ban this time around on the Chronos, which I think makes plenty of sense. Uller not banned away this time by Bedtime's Calling, though, Tolly. That has been the consistent ban that we don't see here. Thor also open, and Outcold will elect to go with the more recently buffed character.
Hard to go for like a player-focused pick such as Uller when Thor is on the table and with so many changes. Uller not receiving any of those changes, really, so I think this is the smarter choice. Utilize that global pressure, really prevent Bedtime Calling, SARPEII specifically, from being comfortable the same way he was in the previous game.
Love this. Distortion goes right back to this Chernobog pick, certainly one that he looked great on last game. And maybe you can give him in the same sort of matchup. No Anhur this time around for Just Lion. Instead, it's going to be back to his Muzen Cobb. So had the chance to go to the Uller Tolly, but decides to go with a matchup that might cause himself some problems. I mean, Chernobog's whole combo is a fairly slow AoE route, but AMC can get caught in that. He doesn't have any movement.
That's true, but the attack speed is really important to utilize during some of these objectives. Despite some of the nerfs between the swarm and the passive damage nerf, it's still the #1 pushing power hunter in the game, so it can keep Chernobog under his tower consistently. We've seen Distortion when he's left unchecked to split push that side of the map, get towers, and even get a Phoenix for free.
Poseidon right before the second ban phase here for Bedtime's Calling, and they'll turn their attention right back towards that mage tab in the second ban phase. The Poseidon this time around, usually you don't want to pick it against the Khepri because Poseidon's all about Kraken, kill this one guy, but sometimes you just have to let that loose on the Khepri himself, and usually you can still get him on the res after the Kraken's done.
That's true, and sometimes you can maybe even find the kill without the Kraken, so you can anticipate the res bubble timer reset to get the secondary kill, so that's not a bad idea whatsoever. The cripple is an important factor to even stop the abduct. Once the Thor lands from Anvil of Dawn, he can throw out the hammer, but he won't be able to teleport to it if he's under the Whirlpool cripple.
Plus, I mean, you've got Geb, Cataclysm, into Shockwave, into Kraken. You can see that Khepri until he's dead, basically through until the end game, so you've got plenty of options in that regard. Is Chulainn locked in yet again here for Bedtime's Calling? Kana played it so well there in Game 2. You no surprise that he goes back to it.
Yeah, he was the second player damage charts, actually, just doing a good job zoning, venting that anger throughout the game, really rooting people, keeping them in check, absorbing a lot of damage as well. I think this is his comfort pick now.
Guan Yu, though, one of those picks that we see sometimes up against Chulainn. Chulainn, no way to interrupt that Talu assault, can really make some good waves there in the solo lane. And then the Morrigan, paired alongside a Khepri and a Thor, you've got some decent transformations on the other side in Chernobog and now in Kali as well. Yeah. I like this Morrigan pick a lot.
It's looking like it's getting better and better after that Kali pick especially. So I love the Morrigan pick. It has great pushing power. Whether you want to stick that in the long lane or in the mid lane could work out either way. Yeah,
I like this draft here for Bedtime's Calling as well as the draft from Outcold. I don't know. I mean, I would have said, I agreed with you when you said that it was probably going to be a 2-0 because Outcold just has been historically the better team. Now it's all up in the air, and we've got Game 3 ready to decide it. It's Tom and it's Taco on the cast.
Outcold Gaming. Very interesting to see them drop game number 2. Of course, me and Taco can be found on Twitter. Doug as well. Please follow us as well as at SMITE Pro. That's where you can find all of the information about our SMITE Pro League and all of our affiliate leagues, of course, as well. SMITE Pro League returns on Thursday. We've got console today, minor league tomorrow, and of course Wednesday is our esports weekly day. Don't want to miss all of the action as we return to phase 2. And as we return to game 3, all of the action in the duel lane this time around. Pulsza on the Khepri for Outcold.
No more leaving these hunters to their own devices, but Pulsza and Chulainn, despite getting the better end of that initial creep wave, not going to look for the invade opportunity on Bedtime's Calling purple buff. Probably feeling just a little bit safer right now to prioritize their own buff securing farm.
The Guan from FataliTyxFire, an interesting look here, very different from the Bellona, but I think the idea is the same. Bellona and Guan both can find their way to the backline very easily, and that's what we're seeing out of FataliTyxFire. He would regularly use the ultimate to jump over the front line into the backline and zone those players out so that Outcold could fight on their own terms whenever they wanted to. Same idea here. FataliTyxFire going to use the ultimate, drive past the front line, and force the enemies away. Same mentality. We'll see if it has the same success as game number 1. Yeesh. A close one.
Oh, Raidunw barely managing to make it away. A good, aggressive attempt there from Pulsza. Immediately goes for the Khepri bug hug onto Raidunw, but Raidunw had zero hesitation, dropping the purification beads. Probably recognizing that if Khepri's here, well, Muzen might be also, and that was in fact the case. Chulainn, though, not going to be able to help participate in a first blood opportunity just yet. Still, goes to show that Outcold Gaming, they're not looking to play this one slow.
No, not at all. Outcold don't have the hell and Batz combo this time. Thor is going to be able to be early and often, and Dragon King's in trouble. Shell already expended. Where's the root? They're only level 2. Still won't be enough. Very close, though. Big damage out of Chulainn. And really, this translates into pressure that Outcold can hang on to for a minute. The speed is up, so dual lane should know that the junglers know we're in town. They can extend this to a red buff invade if they're smart about it.
Possibly. One thing is for sure, though. Game 2, Cynortas just had little to no impact for Outcold Gaming. It was just, we didn't have anything to talk about from the mid lane other than Cynortas dying.
There it is.
That was it, though. So this Morrigan should be a really interesting switch up. Maybe Cynortas probably just felt that on the Zhong he just wasn't able to actually work his way into BTC's backline, but Morrigan, I mean, that's kind of her specialty.
Oh yeah, you are invisible. I think that's a good tool. I think invisibility is a good tool if you're trying to find somebody on the backline. And again, Cynortas plus FataliTyxFire, a carry is dead. Absolutely. Because you're hitting them at least once with the Guan nonsense. Realistically, you want to hit them twice, plus the dash, and Cynortas is going to triangle stop you right there as well. That's a dead carry. So if you could make that happen for Outcold, theoretically, OCG can start every team fight 5 versus 4 once you get to that damage stage for the Morrigan, which is about 4 items. So if that's the strategy, and it should be, in my personal opinion, then Outcold Gaming are going to do a great job of starting these team fights and continuing them. It's up to Bedtime's Calling to just look at SARPEII. Just, can you, Kali? That's the question. Sometimes it's that simple.
But this could also, in a sense, kind of work against Bedtime's Calling here. This is a big gamble, bringing in the Kali with the Gev. I think that if it's a Kali with any other support that bodes a little bit more aggression, I feel more confident in that pick, but there's just such low pressure from Bedtime's Calling. Outcold Gaming are kind of free to choose their engagements throughout the course of the early to mid game.
Absolutely, and that's the big deal. That's why I do like the Poseidon here for Bedtime's Calling. Poseidon really hits his stride in that mid game where your Kraken is murdering players, and the Whirlpool really does set things up where the Whirlpool is really impactful. As the game goes later and later, players have more options to deal with the Kraken, etc., etc. So that mid-game where Outcold can step forward, theoretically, it's Raiden's job to say, stop.
Well, it might also be Raidunw's sole responsibility to be the primary Scarab's Blessing burner. That Kraken could be the important tool that BTC need to give SARPEII enough room that he can actually look for a confirmation pick onto anybody he goes on. But as it currently stands, SARPEII might just be getting turned on himself.
Tag in, tag out. Distortion shows up. SARPEII has the ultimate, opted to jump away instead of burn it. And I think that's that. No team wants to go. Are your crews up? And where you going? Is it Raiden? Is Doug right?
I think
Is
he's
it
out of
Cynortas?
range of everybody.
Oh, he's just red buff. Okay, there it is. Nice job, Arya. Little satellite ultimate. And you know what? I'll take back my little chuckle. Arya going up there forces SARPEII. I think SARPEII was or Raiden, right? Forces that player directly up north, and then you get to look to see if there's any shenanigans going on the left side. I'm fine with that ultimate for sure. One other thing I wanted to mention about mid lane Raiden here. Bedtime's Calling has embarrassed Outcold Gaming's objectives for 2 games straight. In the game they lost, they still stole them. In the game they won, they stole them. Now you've got a Kraken there. I dare Outcold Gaming to do an objective. With as sloppy as their objective secure has been.
Then again, Cynortas could have a Kraken of his own to give all the objective confirmation in the world for
That's huge,
Outcold here. So not necessarily a guarantee, but a nice Gep Shield gonna cleanse the stun out of that Thor wall, but
Who
not
cares?
necessarily the damage from the hammer toss.
Yeah, who cares? We've seen a change on the Guan Yu. A lot of the Guan Yu junglers have been leveling the dash. I think here in lane it's likely that Fatality is leveling the Towel Assault, and he will be. But for Thor, no change has been had. Our good Thor players will still max that hammer, and the ranged poke is pretty absurd. Able to see with the Geb shield, Thor was still able to take Poseidon down to about 85%.
Yeah, not a ton of fun to be on the receiving end of those Thor walls into the hammer tosses.
What does that number say? They take 200% extra damage?
No, 30% additional, but if hit twice, yes. If hit twice, you don't have HP.
Just lying? You don't have HP either. Great play from Dragon King. That absolutely was Distortion just playing the minimap.
It just
And Just Lion, not.
it just never gets old. That's really all it comes down to. It doesn't matter whether he's on a mobile ADC or not. Just Lion really wants to box whoever it is. He just gets a bloodthirst in his brain that can't really seem to shake, and it's usually led to getting the better of him on more than one occasion and more than just one set. And Outcold Gaming, I mean, they'll just have to sit and wait. I don't think that first blood's necessarily going to impact the duo lane too heavily.
It's not the end of the game, but it's certainly not something I want to be seeing.
It's the start for Bedtime's Calling.
Exact. Wonderfully said. It's not over for OCG, but this is how Bedtime's Calling kind of gets into position. FataliTyxFire could be in a bad spot here. Kind of has to force out the Civic. Runs away. Arya Cruz and Just Lion looking to punish Distortion. There's a little bit of that. Nice job. That ultimate's going to go elsewhere. Dash away as Distortion shows up, and that's that. Should be. Yeah, that's all well and good. A nice escape there for the carry on Bedtime's Calling.
Can be tough to try and find that Chernobog. Cynortas was even looking to give a helping hand there, opting for that Changeling to get a living nightmare of his own. But waiting out the full duration could prove to be problematic, and Distortion also finding a nice candidate there in Pulsza.
Kana on the Cucullin. You know, it was interesting to see it once in a set. Now, a couple of times. Is it Pride win? Is it the items that have come out? Or is this just what Kana wants to do?
I think this is also just player preference playing a huge part here. This matchup,
It's worked out for what it's worth.
it's not a bad matchup either. Cucullin into the Guan Yu. It can be a little bit awkward for the Cucullin or the Guan Yu. It really just depends on how both of those players choose to engage throughout the lane. And it's been relatively back and forth so far from what I can tell.
Blue buff, not stolen. Nice try, though. Here comes a red buff invade from Bedtime's Calling as they get aggressive. Just Lion has a good flank. But he's got to be careful if Distortion chooses to turn around. Trouble for the Khepri as the Kraken will pop down, saved, and Arya Cruz takes 2. Just Lion gets the 3rd. Ain't nobody taking our red buff, says Outcold. As they shove the enemy away, SARPEII jumps in and gets 1. But I don't think they're going to get 2 for the money. I think it's going to be a good wall, good beads, and SARPEII gets on out of there. The return invade is good. And Arya confirms the red buff.
Arya still chasing down SARPEII as well, not even gonna let him get his back harpies for free. And SARPEII's just gonna have to sit and watch because Arya Cruz is back up now with Cynortas, and when it's only a Geb coming to your aid, I don't think that that's a fight you wanna try and gamble on. Just Lion also receiving some of the extra benefits out of that purple buff invade. Now has control of that timer, could look for an invade himself.
Just Lion uses the beads, fights into Dragon King, and Distortion shows up as well. Arya here, walls off his own carry. Okay, that's a fight Just Lion is going to lose 100 times out of 101 attempts. But also a fight that Just Lion's going to take 100 times out of 101 attempts. Arya Cruz shows up and goes, no, no. And what? Just no.
Perfectly disguises it also to make it look like, hey, Just Lion, you got him, bro.
Yo,
yeah, they're scared of you.
Hold me back, bro. The mid lane jump here. Kraken dashed out of by Pulsza. No whirlpool to set it up. Cynortas finds the teleport out of there as well. Nice transformation. And a nice call there for the mid lane change.
Almost feel like Cynortas, if he'd gone for the Poseidon instead, could have found a counter pick, but
safety first.
Safety first is sometimes best as FataliTyxFire. Oh, scratch that. It's going to be Pulsza and Cynortas looking to bring down SARPEII, at least force out that Kali ultimate. So SARPEII won't be able to dive as recklessly.
This is, and that's, if I'm SARPEII, I'm kind of fine with that. Believe it or not, I like Kali at like level 1, level 2, right? The stun gives you a ton of power, and you actually can work off of that. But after that, I don't want to see you till late game. So you chased my Kali ultimate out, fine, man. I'm not going to fight. I don't want to fight. I'll see you later. Dragon King gets the ultimate forced out and walks into every piece of damage Arya has. Red buff invade one more time by Outcold, and this time it's confirmed by Bedtime's calling. Raidunw will be able to pick it up, no problem. There's the ultimate from FataliTyxFire. Ton of damage! That's a whole lot of work coming out from Mr. Fire. The damage that Guan ultimate does is intense. But Outcold Gaming still on the enemy side of the battlefield. Big damage from one hunter to the next. There's the Kraken Man! It's a trade out. Big ultimate coming out from the Thor players. Not going to find the stun, but gets the kill anyway. SARPEII here. No ultimate available. See you later. The double for Arya. And that's enough space. 3 players dead in Bedtime's calling jerseys. And FataliTyxFire on Kana. Outcold could look for the objective. They're a little bit afraid of it right now.
Without Just Lion, don't think that Outcold believe they can bring it down fast enough without Kana and Dragon King interfering.
Probably the right call.
It's just for the best to take the picks where you've got them. Had to trade out your AMC, but 2 for the price of 1, still a steal.
Yep, absolutely. And with Arya playing the game the way they are, 4-0-2. I love the Transcendence pickup. Thor's an interesting character. I talk a lot about characters that have that can shift into different positions. A lot of times you see the Void Shield, the Shifter's Shield, more of a transition into tank. If you're 4-0-2 and near top of the player damage, build that Transcendence and keep the train going. Thor can absolutely be your hard carry.
Oh, I think that Transcendence pickup is also influenced by the fact that Arya Cruz got 2 kills so early on, but is a little bit toast right now. Too much appraisal gives the caster's curse for free. You're welcome, Bedtime's calling.
I was going to say about that. Sorry, Cynortas. In trouble there. Not a great look there. Bedtime's calling. Gets kill number 5 and opens themselves up for the Gold Fury. 25%. Just Lion's here. Tosses the bees. Not good enough. BTC get the objective and take the lead. Good old-fashioned lead change. As the carries get chased down, Raiden dash through. FataliTyxFire here, shredding SARPEII, but a good stun cuts the Tallow in half. Kana here trying to deal damage to the solo laner, as everybody else from BTC hiding behind their tank. Great positioning from Bedtime's Calling. And Outcold Gaming lose their mid laner and lose the objective for it. As I said, lead change. It's 1,000 gold in the way of Bedtime's Calling.
Bit unfortunate there for Outcold Gaming, to say the least, after that Cynortas pick.
Hurts,
But
don't it?
Bedtime's Calling, they took advantage of the given situation. They recognized 2 players dead. This is our opportunity now to try and siege this Gold Fury outright, and that's exactly what they chose to do. I like seeing the transition over the course of time in a given set, especially these best of 3s, where you can definitely tell that the player adaptations that are coming through. And for Bedtime's Calling, that's committing to the full objective pool.
Exactly, yeah, because, you know, it's interesting, the 5s and the 3s. Pulsza here. Again, saved. Can they get it? No stun. But the walk down from SARPEII would have been good if there wasn't a wall. Still good this time. SARPEII gets Pulsza. Cynortas up top uses some sort of transformation. It's the Batman. SARPEII's going to get punished. Big damage from FataliTyxFire.
Man,
Raiden back to base, and it's a 1-for-1.
FataliTyxFire has been saving Outcold Gaming, though, time and time again with this Guan Yu.
Yeah.
And Kana, sure, he's making the rotations, but I'm just not sold on the level of impact from this Cacolin being the same as that from FataliTyxFire. And it's a growing concern as well, because FataliTyxFire, he's the most farm member on the map right now, standing at level 17 with this Guan Yu. And it's when that true 5v5 begins to unfold that I think we're really going to start seeing the difference between the Guan and the Cacolin pickups.
At the same time, I see 2 very different thought processes here. FataliTyxFire has been aggro all day. I'm going to jump on the backline. I don't care what's going on. Kana has been defensive-minded, and with that, I think, you know, having the double knock-up as a defense tool is all well and good. So maybe we just haven't seen Kana kind of step into the role when he's playing defensively. I think he guards the carries well, but as far as just raw impact, there's no way I can disagree with you there. FataliTyxFire, out of 10 players, has been the most impactful player on the field. Possibly all 3 games?
All 3 games for sure.
I mean,
even the game that they lost, I think that FataliTyxFire was still, for the most part, trying to put all the pieces of the puzzle together for Outcold Gaming to kind of follow up on. But here, could be overstepping it just a little bit, looking for the back Harpies invade against SARPEII, but understanding the Pulsza with the backup on that Khepri might have given him that extra little boon of confidence.
FataliTyxFire is playing like the best dude in ranked right now, where, and I think game number 2 was really evident of that, where he's making all the right decisions, being in all the right places, making all the right plays. But in game number 2, we saw them. That's exactly where I want the whole team to be, but they're not on the same page, so instead you're just out of position and you look dumb, right? That's what's happening to FataliTyxFire. He's like, all right, guys, here we are, marching up the... Why are you at back Harpies? Where is my team? I'm in the right spot, but because you're not, that makes it the wrong spot. Shoutouts to Just Lion, who's reading this book for the first time, and we'll get walked down by the Kalima. Last hit stolen by Distortion. So here in games 1 and 3, FataliTyxFire has really synced up with his team, and it's looked better.
You know, if Just Lion lands the stinger, though, that could have been a completely different outcome of an engagement there. But instead, we've got FataliTyxFire, who understands how to toggle the aggression, and I'm starting to understand why now, and you got to handle it from Just Lion.
Beads chased out. Cynortas on the backside as they transform and dash away. Here's 1 versus 3, baby. FataliTyxFire walking down the Poseidon. Where you at, bud? Where's that Kraken? It's in my pocket. 4th player showing up will cause FataliTyxFire to walk away. Not die, but walk away. Raiden barely gets out of there. Got to give a shout out to Dragon King for the shell. Perfectly timed.
And the shield on that Geb as well, keeping him alive through all of FataliTyxFire's Tallow assaults and Guan Yu beatdowns, pretty much. But hey, 1v3, no problem. FataliTyxFire had that covered. 1v4, and he loses the opportunity for the kill. So if it takes 4 people to save a carry, Outcold Gaming still had plenty of room to work with here. Distortion even could be in some trouble. He's going to be forced to expend that into darkness rather early on. This is a good time to fight now. He's got about at least another 11 seconds or so.
Oni Fury is going to be a big deal. Yeah, that small window of opportunity, Taco, is not going to be taken advantage of, unfortunately. Oni Fury. Bedtime's Calling is sitting here daring somebody to jump on them. FataliTyxFire biding his time. You can see the pings are all about where's Guan. Where's Guan? That's all Bedtime's Calling is worried about right now. Where is Guan? They are pinging this solo laner. They need to know where he is. This could be a bad look for Raidunw. Arya not fully investing because of the wraparound potential. There's the Guan dashing on the front line. Back line doesn't really matter to him. Everybody's getting shredded. This Distortion could be in trouble. In the wall right now, dashes away. Arya in the sky. Kraken's bad. Land is good. Pulsza with kill number 9. Dragon Man goes down. That's double digits for Outcold. SARPEII, the ultimate will end now, and the life will end. Fatality puts them up to kill number 11. Stunned up and guns up. Kill number 12. A baker's dozen for Outcold Gaming. Again, led by the lead singer of FataliTyxFire. They're putting on a show.
I think about 3 or 4 minutes ago, we were talking about what these 5v5s would actually pan out as.
Yep.
And Bedtime's Calling finally experiencing the full wrath, I think, of Outcold Gaming in that last instance. Oni Fury, not even on Outcold Gaming's mind. They were solely interested in the team fight from the start. It was pretty evident in the way that Arya Cruz was also trying to distract attention away from that Gold Fury pit, more towards the mid laner, trying to kind of bait Bedtime's Calling into looking for heal against the Poseidon, because with Raidunw having been by himself, that forces SARPEII to rotate in. That instantly gives Outcold the 4v3 on the initial grouping of the Oni Fury, and that separation throughout the choke point. I don't think a double Thor combination could have been any better placed.
It's exactly what you're looking for. Great stuff out of Outcold Gaming, who just popped the top on this one. 5,000 gold in the lead, and they're up about 6 kills as well, 4,600 to be precise. And as we look at Outcold Gaming here, I mean, this is rudimentary from this point. I think you got a Fire Giant, you take care of an Oni Fury, so Bedtime Calling is something to worry about. You walk up one lane, get the tier 2, you go to the other, hit the other tier 2, if not the Phoenix, and just, this is where you're supposed to win the game for Outcold. It's up to Bedtime Calling, who are within striking distance, absolutely, but it's Bedtime Calling's responsibility to bring this game into their direction. If everything just goes through the motions, Outcold take this 19 times out of 20.
It has to be a multi-hit Kraken. That's feasibly the best way for Bedtime's Calling to try and play defense. I mean, I get it. No-brainer, Taco. Of course, a Kraken's going to be good on defense, but
Come on, Taco.
It's just the fact that we have yet to see, I think, the appropriate juggling between Kraken burst damage into SARPEII, then having his own form of initiation. That has been a steady disconnection for Bedtime's Calling throughout this entire Game 3, and I think a large part of the reason why SARPEII has been mostly unsuccessful with Akali. He's had a couple of odd-ended picks here and there against Just Lion. Whoop-de-doo, everybody kills Just Lion in a set.
I think SARPEII, again, it's not Kali time yet. Kali, the Chinsai and the Hasten Fatalis, or Hasten Katana, excuse me. Now it's Kali time. Oh, we just got there. So maybe on these defenses you can get here, but really I think that one of the bigger differences here, Taco, has been the carry job, the 2 hunters. You're looking at the player damage, and you look at the builds. Just Lion, the difference between these 2 builds is Executioner. Executioner is quote-unquote correct. That's going to give you the penetration. But what's happening to Just Lion is he is never forced to fight a tank because FataliTyxFire is doing that for him. So Just Lion builds 0 pen and always fights the squishies, and it works out flawlessly. Great stun there from Arya, who's taking Raidunw down, misses the stun. The double tap is good! And that's all they need! Down goes the mid lane mage. Here comes the Horus in the front, the back, and everywhere in between. SARPEII loses the fight versus Just Lion. It's a 5-on-3, and they're getting sandwiched here, Taco. Distortion, backing off. The shell, not going to be enough. 2 players surrounding the carry. Kana gets 1, but that's it. He's going to dodge Just Lion 20 times till Tuesday. But that's going to be that. Outcold Gaming take another team fight. The left side Phoenix goes down.
This has got to be it.
I mean, it's got to be, right? There's no way that they walk away.
10 seconds, though, for Raidunw. If Dragon King can delay just a little bit longer, but that's
Beautiful
just
play.
looking impossible right now. FataliTyxFire running circles around this Titan in that Guan cavalry charge, and well, it's pretty much a sealed deal there for Outcold Gaming.
Game number 3, just like that. You love to see it if you're an Outcold Gaming fan as well. But on the other side, I think we saw some good quality SMITE from the boys on Bedtime's Calling. I think they did what they needed to do. But really, I loved the work from FataliTyxFire. What more can you say?
That said, I mean, he's a set MVP, clear and outright. I don't think there really needs to be much more said, other than take a look at the scoreline.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I want to bring up the Hunter numbers. Big difference here. You see Distortion, 9,000, and Just Lion, 17,500. If we could go back to the itemization here, I started to talk about it as they sieged that left side. Just Lion has little to no penetration. Distortion has all of the penetration that you want, but that missing slot is going to be the Fail Not sword. Just Lion didn't have to shoot any of the tanks because of FataliTyxFire's great work. I loved the mentality here.
Distortion hardly had a chance to auto, I would argue, even throughout that match. It was just really well played between Arya Cruz and FataliTyxFire. FataliTyxFire obviously leading the charge, but I don't think that he would have been capable of finding a lot of those picks had it not been for a lot of the successful reinitiations from those Anvil of Dawns out of Arya.
Absolutely. The Thor play certainly came into effect here at Outcold Gaming. We can forget about the Cabrakan game. We can absolutely forget about the Cabrakan game if you're going to bring those types of games with the Thor and the Hunt Batz earlier in game number 1. So a fantastic start to the day here on the console side of things. We love to see it. 3 more matches, though, in the wings. We'll be right back with more minor league action, or excuse me, console league action after this.